Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning and a warm welcome to the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. We will begin shortly. We would like to request that you kindly mute your phones for the opening session, and may I please ask all delegates to take their seats. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning and a warm welcome to the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. We will begin shortly. We would like to request you to kindly mute your phones for the opening session. May I please ask all delegates to take their seats. Now I'm not sure. Oh, he's in there. Are you coming in with them? Okay, you're here already, so I don't need to announce you. Announce as well. Good morning and a warm welcome to the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. We will begin shortly. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, please join me in welcoming Ms. Armida Salcia Alice Jahabna, Undersecretary General of United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, His Excellency Mr. Sakta Vichiansin, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Interior, Royal Thai Government, and Ms. Tiziana Bonapace, Director, ICT and Disaster Risk Reduction Division.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning and a warm welcome to the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. I wish to inform everyone that simultaneous interpretation of the proceedings is provided by the United Nations for the purpose of facilitating communication, in light of the fact that there are 6 official languages of the UN, 4 of which are used at ESCAP. Only the speech or intervention in the original language is authentic and constitutes an authentic record of the proceedings. In case of any inconsistency between the interpretation and the speech of intervention in the original language, the latter shall prevail. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the official program of the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction will now begin. It is my honor to invite Ms. Armida Salcia Alice Chabana, Executive Secretary of ESCAP and Under Secretary General of the United Nations, to give her opening statement.
Excellency Mr. Sakda Vichiensin, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Interior, Thailand, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It is my honor to welcome you to the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. The committee convenes over the next 3 days to strengthen resilience of Asia and the Pacific through cooperation as extreme heat reshapes the regional riskscape. The 2025 Asia-Pacific Disaster Report, Rising Heat, Rising Risk, is expected to serve as a shared reference for policy action at national and regional levels. The report projects that over the next 75 years, regional disaster losses could increase from about $418 billion under the current scenario to about $498 billion under the worst-case climate scenario. Our projections also indicate sharp increases in days above critical heat thresholds with South and Southwest Asia, parts of Southeast Asia, and Northern and Eastern Australia, trending towards chronic heat exposure. The message from the report is clear. Heat risk is accelerating, and it intersects with food systems, public health, urban living, rural livelihoods, infrastructure, and oceans. Heat knows no borders. Therefore, policy responses must anticipate impacts, reduce exposure and vulnerability at scale, and safeguard those most at risk. Allow me to share 3 directions that can strategically guide the committee's deliberations. The first one is that place heat at the center of multi-hazard planning. Early warning and early action save lives when alerts are timely, messages are trusted, and last-mile delivery reaches the vulnerable, children, older people, and outdoor low-wage workers. Increasingly, science, digitally driven geospatial data, and local knowledge are combining in innovative ways that are making warnings more accurate and actionable. Next is that design cooler, more livable cities. Notwithstanding technology innovations, nature-based solutions such as trees, parks, green roofs, and wetlands are tried and true. They lower neighborhood temperatures, reduce energy demand, and enhance well-being. When streets, buildings, and public spaces are planned with heat in mind, resilience advances with every season. Finally, invest in cooperation on data and innovation. Countries are increasingly recognizing the value of regional cooperation mechanisms, such as the Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster, and Climate Preparedness, along with cutting-edge data platforms like the Risk and Resilience Portal. Shared data, analytical methodologies, and learning can accelerate shared safety and cost effectiveness. Partnerships are also essential. In this regard, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the People's Republic of China, Japan, Kazakhstan, the Republic of Korea, the Russian Federation, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for their generous financial and technical support to projects on technology, innovation, and disaster risk reduction that the Secretariat has implemented since the committee last met. Furthermore, the 20th commemoration of the Indian Ocean tsunami took place on 26 December 2024, a day on which more than 230,000 deaths were remembered. Since that fateful day, much progress has been made. For example, earlier this year, the 8.8 magnitude earthquake, which struck off the eastern coast of the Russian Federation near the Kamchatka Peninsula, proved our systems work. Alerts were issued, lives were saved. This reflects years of sustained investment, regional cooperation, and local action. However, gaps remain. To address this, we look forward to statements from the ambassadors of the contributing countries to the Trust Fund. I commend and thank sincerely the leadership of Thailand and India, as well as the continuous commitment of Switzerland, Italy, the Philippines, and the Asian Development Bank. This solidarity strengthens collective capacity for action across the region. We stand ready to support member states in translating these priorities into results through technical assistance, regional platform, as well as knowledge sharing. Rising heat brings rising risk, but also a rising opportunity for leadership. With urgency, clarity, and cooperation, lives and livelihoods across the region can be protected. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank Ms. Alice Jabana, the Executive Secretary of ESCAP, for her opening statement. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Sakda Vichansil, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Interior, the Royal Thai Government, to give his opening statement.
คุณอมิดาซาเซียอาลิสจะบานารองเลขาธิการสหประชาชาติและเลขาธิการบริหารคณะกรรมาการเศรษฐกิจและสังคมแห่งสหประชาชาติสำหรับเอเชียแปซิฟิกท่านรัฐมนตรีแขกผู้มีเกียรติสุภาพบุรุษสุภาพสตรีผมรู้สึกเป็นเกียรติและมีความยินดีเป็นอย่างยิ่งที่ได้ต้อนรับทุกท่านในการประชุมคณะกรรมการว่าด้วยการลดความเสี่ยงจากภัยพิบัติสมัยที่ 9 ที่จัดขึ้นณกรุงเทพมหานครในครั้งนี้ในช่วงเวลาที่ผ่านมาเราจะเห็นว่าสภาพภูมิอากาศที่แปรเปลี่ยนทำให้ความสมดุลของธรรมชาติเปลี่ยนไปโดยเฉพาะภัยพิบัติที่มักจะเกิดขึ้นตามที่ปรากฏเป็นข่าวอยู่ในระยะห่วงที่ผ่านมาไม่ว่าจะเป็นปัญหาเรื่องภัยพิบัติน้ำท่วมแผ่นดินไหวและ PM 2.5 ที่เกิดขึ้นสืบเนื่องมาจากความสมดุลทางธรรมชาติและการปล่อยก๊าซคาร์บอนไดออกไซด์พร้อมกับพื้นที่ป่าไม้หรือธรรมชาติถูกทำลายทำให้ความสมดุลของธรรมชาติและสิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยต้องเปลี่ยนไปการเกิดภัยพิบัติในช่วงที่ผ่านมามักจะไม่ได้เกิดประเทศใดประเทศหนึ่งมักจะได้รับผลกระทบกับหลายประเทศโดยเฉพาะในประเทศในเอเชียแปซิฟิกเพราะฉะนั้นการที่เราจะแก้ไขปัญหาหรือจะช่วยเหลือเรื่องภัยพิบัติที่เกิดขึ้นจึงต้องอาศัยความร่วมมือของนานาประเทศที่ต้องร่วมมือกันช่วยเหลือกันเพื่อแก้ไขปัญหาให้ประชากรหรือมนุษย์สามารถดำรงอยู่ได้อย่างปลอดภัยนะครับในวันนี้นะครับเราจึงได้มีการจัดประชุมสัมมนาขึ้นนะครับต้องขอขอบคุณผ ผู้ที่ได้ร่วมประชุมสัมมนานะครับในครั้งนี้นะครับ ซึ่งท่านรัฐมนตรีท่านสุภาพบุรุษนะครับท่านสุภาพสตรีครับมาตรฐานที่เราจะดำเนินการมันมีประเด็นสำคัญที่เราจะต้องพูดคุยกันอยู่3ประการคือเรื่องแรกที่เราจะต้องเตรียมคือข้อมูลนะครับในการเตรียมความพร้อมเช่นข้อมูลเรื่องภูมิประเทศข้อมูลเรื่องประชากรและข้อมูลเรื่องอื่นๆที่เราจะต้องเตรียมพร้อมเพื่อกับรับมือกับภัยพิบัติที่จะเกิดขึ้นประการที่2เรื่องการแจ้งเตือนหรือการแจ้งเตือนระบบเซลล์บอร์ดแคสต์ที่ประเทศไทยหรือนานาประเทศได้จัดทำขึ้นจะเป็นการแจ้งเตือนประชาชนให้เตรียมตัวและระมัดระวังพร้อมที่จะอพยพออกจากพื้นที่เพื่อป้องกันอันตรายที่อาจจะเกิดขึ้นประเทศไทยนะครับเป็นประเทศที่ได้รับผลกระทบกับคลื่นสึนามิเมื่อปีพ.ศ. 2547นะครับประเทศไทยก็ได้เริ่มต้นนะครับในการบริจาคเงินนะครับจำนวนถึง10,530,000 เหรียญ US นะครับเพื่อให้กับกองทุนสึนามิโดยร่วมกับประเทศสาธารณรัฐอินเดียสาธารณรัฐอิตาลีและสหรัฐฟิลิปปินส์สหราชอาณาจักรสวีเดนและสหพันธ์สวิสนะครับซึ่งกองทุนนี้ก็จะสามารถช่วยในการป้องกันหรือแก้ไขปัญหาสึนามิทำให้ประชาชนอยู่รอดอย่างปลอดภัยนะครับการสุดท้ายนี้นะครับประการที่3นะครับผมหวังว่านานาประเทศนะครับที่จะร่วมมือช่วยเหลือนะครับเพื่อแก้ไขปัญหาภัยพิบัติคงจะต้องมีขึ้นนะครับและอีกต่อไปในอนาคตท่านผู้มีเกียรติครับผมอยากจะเล่าเหตุการณ์ปัญหาภัยพิบัติที่เกิดขึ้นในอำเภอหาดใหญ่จังหวัดสงขลาซึ่งปรากฏเป็นข่าวอยู่ในช่วง 3-4 วันที่ผ่านมาหรือขณะนี้ก็ยังปัญหาก็ยังเกิดขึ้นอยู่คือการปัญหาน้ำท่วมซึ่งไม่เคยเกิดขึ้นมาก่อนที่อำเภอหาดใหญ่จังหวัดสงขลานะครับในภูมิประเทศจังหวัดสงขลาโดยเฉพาะที่อำเภอหาดใหญ่เนี่ยเป็นแหล่งเศรษฐกิจของประเทศไทยในภาคใต้นะครับมีประชากรอยู่อย่างหนาแน่นในตัวเมืองหาดใหญ่เนี่ยมีประชากรในเขตเทศบาลเนี่ยเกือบ 200,000 คนนะครับในทั้งจังหวัดเนี่ยจะมีประชากรประมาณ 280,000 ครัวเรือนนะครับอาศัยอยู่พื้นที่โดยภูมิประเทศเนี่ยจะเป็นหุบเขานะครับโดยเฉพาะในตัวเมืองจะมีลำคลองนะครับขนาดกลางๆก็ไม่ใหญ่มากนะครับก็เรียกว่าลำคลองอุตภาวปกติจะเป็นคลองที่ระบายน้ำลงสู่ทะเลลงสู่อ่าวไทยนะครับแล้วก็ยังมีคลองขุดรอบตัวเมืองหาดใหญ่เพื่อป้องกันน้ำท่วมในช่วงตั้งแต่วันที่19นะครับพฤศจิกาที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยเมื่อ5 วันที่แล้วฝนได้เริ่มตกนะครับทางกรมทางรัฐบาลเนี่ยก็ได้แจ้งเตือนโดยเซเบอร์แคสจนถึงวันนี้นะครับมากกว่า100 ครั้งเพื่อให้ประชาชนเนี่ยเริ่มอพยพออกนะครับเพราะว่าจะมีฝนตกหรือเลนบอมเนี่ยเป็นจำนวนมากณจุดบริเวณจังหวัดสงขลาโดยเฉพาะที่อำเภอหาดใหญ่ประชาชนส่วนใหญ่นะครับมากกว่า 99% ที่อยู่บ้านเรือนในชนบทที่อยู่ในที่ต่ำก็อพยพไปอยู่ในที่สูงนะครับมีประชาชนบางส่วนที่อยู่เป็นตึก2 ชั้น 3 ชั้น 4 ชั้นเนี่ยไม่ได้อพยพออกหรือเป็นคนที่มีสูงอายุนะครับก็เป็นห่วงข้าวของที่อยู่ในบ้านซึ่งวัฒนธรรมคนไทยเนี่ยจะเป็นคนรักถิ่น ถิ่นที่อยู่อาศัยจะไม่ได้ไปอาศัยนอนหรือบ้านคนอื่นนะครับจะอาศัยอยู่ที่บ้านก็ไม่ได้อพยพออกคาดว่าถ้าน้ำท่วมชั้น1ก็ไปอยู่ชั้น2น้ำท่วมชั้น2ก็ไปอยู่ชั้น3แต่ฝนนะครับตกมาวันหนึ่งนะครับประมาณ400มิลลิเมตรต่อวันตกมา4วัน5วันเกือบ 2,000 มิลลิเมตรนะครับในช่วงที่ผ่านมาเท่ากับฝนตก1ปีหนึ่งหาดใหญ่ฝนตกประมาณสัก1,700-1,800แต่นี่ตกภายใน4วัน5วันนะครับน้ำก็ล้นท่วมนะครับไฟฟ้าก็ต้องถูกตัดถนนบางสายใช้การไม่ได้เสาสัญญาณโทรศัพท์ใช้การไม่ได้อาหารนะครับที่ประชาชนไม่ได้อพยพเนี่ยในช่วง2วันแรกก็ยังพอใช้พอมีนะครับประปาถูกตัดน้ำดื่มที่เตรียมไว้ก็จะหมดนะครับประกอบกับน้ำที่ไหลลงช่วงลงทะเลเนื่องจากจังหวัดสงขลาอยู่ใกล้ทะเลอ่าวไทยน้ำขณะนี้น้ำได้บ่าลงอย่างรุนแรงอย่างเร็วมากและแรงนะครับทำให้ประชาชนหรือทางราชการเนี่ยบางจุดนะไม่สามารถนำเรือขนาดเล็กเข้าไปได้เนื่องจากน้ำเชี่ยวกรากก็พยายามใช้เฮลิคอปเตอร์บินแล้วก็นำอาหารนะครับโดยเฉพาะข้าวกล่องนะครับข้าวกล่องแล้วก็น้ำเนี่ยพยายามไปหย่อนให้ประชาชนนะครับหรือบางวันนี้กับเมื่อวานนี้ได้มีเรือเจ็ตสกีนะครับซึ่งสามารถฝ่ากระแสน้ำได้เข้าไปช่วยนะครับทุกภาคส่วนนะครับโดยเฉพาะท่านนายกรัฐมนตรีเนี่ยได้ลงไปในพื้นที่แล้ว3 ครั้งนะฮะขณะนี้ก็ยังอยู่ในพื้นที่อำเภอหาดใหญ่จังหวัดสงขลานะครับเพื่อไปควบคุมสถานการณ์เมื่อวานนี้นะครับได้มีพระราชดำรัสของพระบาทสมเด็จพระเจ้าอยู่หัวให้รัฐบาลนะครับช่วยเหลือประชาชนให้เร็วที่สุดและปลอดภัยที่สุดนะครับรัฐบาลได้ออกพระราชกำหนดนะครับโดยให้ผู้บัญชาการทหารสูงสุดเป็นหัวหน้านะครับในการควบคุมพร้อมกับใช้กำลัง3 เหล่าทัพทหารอากาศนะครับฐานเรือและฐานบกเข้าไปช่วยเหลือพร้อมอุปกรณ์ที่มีอยู่ทั้งหมดนะครับซึ่งขณะนี้น้ำได้เริ่มลดนะครับขณะนี้นะครับน้ำได้ลดลงจากเดิมเนี่ยประมาณ1 เมตรนะครับได้ลดลง1 เมตรนะครับและคาดว่าภายในพรุ่งนี้ถ้าฝนไม่ตกลงมาอีกนะครับจะอพยพหรือเคลียร์ประชาชนได้หมด 100% นะครับช่วงที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยทางราชการนะครับได้ให้รองนายกรัฐมนตรีกลาโหมอธิบดีกรมป้องกันบรรเทาสาธารณภัยอธิบดีกรมชลประทานผู้ว่าราชการจังหวัดนะครับปลัดกระทรวงเนี่ยลงไปบัญชาการอยู่ในพื้นที่นะครับแล้วนำกำลังเจ้าหน้าที่จากจังหวัดอื่นๆพร้อมอุปกรณ์เนี่ยได้เข้าไประดมช่วยนะครับแล้วมีอาสาสมัครบางส่วนนะครับก็ได้ไปให้ความช่วยเหลือก็ต้องขอบคุณผู้ที่ได้ยื่นมือมาช่วยเหลือนะครับเรื่องอาหารกับน้ำนะครับได้มีคนมาหน่วยงานต่างๆพร้อมกับทางราชการได้เข้าไปช่วยเหลือเป็นจำนวนมากนะครับแล้วก็ทางรัฐบาลมั่นใจว่าสิ่งต่างๆเหล่านี้ไม่ขาดแคลนแล้วก็ประชาชนเนี่ยจะได้รับความปลอดภัยนะครับแล้วก็จะแก้ไขปัญหาสถานการณ์กลับคืนสู่สภาพเดิมให้เร็วที่สุดครับท่านใดมีข้อเสนอแนะหรือคำถามยินดีครับโอเคนะ
I would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Sakta Vichansil for his opening statement. It is now my honor to invite ministerial statements, and I would like to start by inviting His Excellency, Mr. Ramil Kamalov, Vice Minister, Ministry of Emergency Situations of Kazakhstan, to deliver his statement.
Добрый день, уважаемые дамы и господа. Позвольте приветствовать вас от имени правительства Республики Казахстан и выразить глубокую признательность ESCAP за организацию 9-й сессии Комитета ООН по снижению риска стихийных бедствий, а также за последовательную работу по укреплению устойчивости в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Казахстан высоко ценит возможность открытого диалога, обмена знаниями и согласования коллективных мер по снижению риска стихийных бедствий. Сегодняшние климатические и социально-экономические вызовы подчеркивают необходимость ускоренных действий. Усиление экстремальной жары, изменение гидрологических режимов, увеличение числа опасных природных явлений оказывают влияние на все страны региона, независимо от уровня их развития или географического положения. Эти угрозы требуют комплексного, научно обоснованного и технологически оснащенного подхода, который невозможно реализовать без международного сотрудничества и обмена ресурсами и компетенциями. В свою очередь, Казахстан продолжает системно, динамично развивать и внедрять на национальном уровне автоматизированные системы мониторинга, оповещения и, безусловно, реагирования. Эти меры сегодня позволяют повышать эффективность прогнозирования и оперативно принимать решения по снижению уязвимости населения объектов инфраструктуры от чрезвычайных ситуаций природного и техногенного характера. Так, по поручению президента Республики Казахстан в 2024 году введена в опытную эксплуатацию информационная система прогнозирования паводков Таскын, которая обеспечивает моделирование зон возможного затопления и повышение точности прогнозов на основе данных гидрологических и климатических наблюдений. В текущем году в паводковом сезоне система продемонстрировала свою эффективность. В дальнейшем мы ее будем развивать для более точных прогнозов. Наряду с этим в масштабе страны мы реализуем автоматизированный проект экстренного массового оповещения населения через мобильные устройства с использованием технологии Cell Broadcast системы MassAlert, которая позволяет осуществлять максимальный охват населения оповещением в течение 10-12 секунд. В прошлом году система MassAlert успешно протестирована в городе Алматы и полностью интегрирована с автоматизированной системой раннего оповещения при землетрясениях с сейсмической активностью 5 и более баллов. Хотел бы обратить ваше внимание на важную инициативу Казахстана в регионе. С 2020 года правительство Казахстана совместно со странами региона работает над созданием Центра цифровых решений в интересах устойчивого развития под эгидой ESCAP ООН. Центр направлен на продвижение добровольного, некоммерческого и открытого цифрового сотрудничества в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Предлагаемый центр предполагается создать в Казахстане в качестве нейтральной платформы, позволяющей странам выявлять, обмениваться и внедрять передовые цифровые решения. Особое внимание будет уделено цифровым решениям в сфере борьбы со стихийными бедствиями. В свою очередь, правительство Казахстана планирует полностью профинансировать этот проект. В этой связи просим всесторонне поддержать данную инициативу. Уважаемые коллеги, укрепление устойчивости не может быть задачей одного государства. Это коллективный процесс, основанный на доверии, обмене передовыми практиками и совместном поиске эффективных решений. Казахстан подтверждает свою приверженность целям ESCAP и готов к дальнейшему углублению сотрудничества для формирования безопасного, адаптивного и устойчивого Азиатско-Тихоокеанского региона. Благодарю вас за внимание.
I thank His Excellency for the statement. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Ziyad, Minister of State from the Ministry of Environment and Energy of the Maldives, to deliver his statement.
Ms. Amida Salsia Alice Shabana, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, His Excellency Mr. Sakta Vichensil, Deputy Minister, Minister of Interior, Royal Thai Government, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's with immense pride and a profound sense of purpose that I stand before you today, representing the Secretariat to the Regional Integrated Multi-Hazard Early Warning System for Africa and Asia. We are here to formalize our enduring and vital partnership with the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, through the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding. This movement transcends a mere diplomatic ceremony. It's a renewal of a shared regional commitment to forge a path of resilience, safeguarding the lives, livelihoods, and economies of our people against the escalating and interconnected threats of disasters and climate change. RHYMES was born from the collective will and shared sorrow of nations in the aftermath of the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, united by a singular vision to establish a regional early warning system for transboundary hazards. I must specially acknowledge the catalytic support that ESCAP extends through its Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster and Climate Preparedness. This foundational support, which included a $3.4 million investment from 2006 to 2009, was instrumental in establishing RHYMES, allowing us to grow into a robust institution supporting 62 members and collaborating states today. This MOU is the realization of a powerful unified strategy. Our cooperation champions the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and profoundly strengthens our collective institutional capacities for risk reduction and building resilience. This agreement aligns perfectly with the ESCAP Trust Fund's ambitious strategy for 2025 to 2030, whose mission is to implement people-centered, end-to-end multi-hazard and interoperable early warning systems for transboundary coastal hazards. Our joint activities, focusing on multi-hazard approaches and impact-based forecasting, are the engines that will drive this mission forward. Just 6 months ago, at the 4th RHYMES Ministerial Conference in Colombo, We explicitly noted the catalytic support of UN ESCAP and resolved to accelerate the Early Warning for All initiative. This MOU is the mechanism that will scale up this initiative for all RIMES members. We also endorsed the RIMES Institutional Development Plan for 2024 to 2030, which envisions decentralization through sub-regional mechanisms. This MOU will enable RIMES to customize and deepen service delivery across the Asia, Pacific, Africa, and beyond, fostering cross-regional scientific experiments, joint research, and the crucial integration of AI and emerging technologies. The true measure of this partnership is its unwavering commitment to those who bear the brunt of climate change. Our least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states. The ESCAP Trust Fund's dedication to allocating pooled funds to high-risk, low-capacity countries finds its strongest partner in RIMES, whose primary mission is to serve and build the capacity of these nations. This MOU delivers critical, tangible benefits, like empowering action. We commit to focus capacity building and training activities and the joint mobilization of expertise to develop practical, scalable resilience solutions. Collective security. We will facilitate the sharing and implementation of innovative solutions for transboundary disaster risks and climate hazards. The Trust Fund, as a unique regional funding mechanism, is dedicated to this regional multi-country programming, achieving essential economies of scale and scope. Information and foresight. By ensuring a regular exchange of information and data, we empower our most vulnerable nations with greater access to the scientific data and geospatial applications necessary for precise risk understanding and longer warning lead times. Driving investment. Our joint advocacy will passionately focus on the economic rationale for investments in disaster risk reduction, securing the sustained and multiple-sourced investment needed to fully extend multi-hazard early warning systems coverage. As a founding member and host of the RIMES Secretariat, the Maldives itself is uniquely positioned to maximize the strategic benefits of this partnership. Hosting the Secretariat provides a powerful platform for strategic influence, amplifying our voice on the regional climate and disaster risk agenda. Crucially, it secures direct access to specialized technical assistance and capacity building programs. The resources linked to the ESCAP Trust Fund can be channeled directly to support the priorities of the Ministry of Tourism and Environment and the Maldives Meteorological Services, accelerating our national mission to foster a sustainable tourism economy and build a climate-resilient nation. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the path to a disaster-resilient Asia-Pacific and Africa is not a solo journey. It runs directly through cooperation, knowledge sharing, and decisive targeted action. The signing of this MOU solidifies a synergistic partnership that harnesses the immense power of ESCAP, intergovernmental platform, and RIMES technical expertise. Let us move forward together with the conviction that we can and will accelerate progress towards our shared goals, which is a future where every individual on this earth is protected by effective early warning systems by 2027. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Latif Sodal Hotamshov, First Deputy Chairman, Committee for Emergency Situations and Civil Defense of the Government of Tajikistan, to deliver his statement.
Уважаемая госпожа Армида Салси Али Джабани, уважаемые главы делегации, дамы и господа. Разрешите от имени делегации Республики Таджикистан приветствовать вас на этом важном международном мероприятии в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Прежде всего, хотел бы выразить признательность организаторам за приглашение и возможность участвовать в работе 9-й сессии Комитета по снижению риска бедствий экономической и социальной комиссии ООН для Азии и Тихоокеанского региона. Странам-участницам экономической и социальной комиссии ООН для Азии и Тихоокеанского региона СКАТа в рамках таких площадок, как наши мероприятия, предоставлены широкие возможности для обсуждений, посвященных тематике расширяющегося и активизирующегося ландшафта рисков, связанных с жарой в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Необходимо отметить, что руководящие результаты 79/1 СКАТ ООН об активизации действий по борьбе с изменением климата в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе в интересах устойчивого развития. Сегодня мы сможем показать свои усилия по стимулированию дальнейшего обмена знаниями и координации между странами-участницами и в будущем. А также сосредоточиться на вопросах борьбы с последствиями экстремальной жары, повышения устойчивости к бедствиям при помощи субрегионального и регионального сотрудничества в области научных и технологических инноваций и включения вопросов, связанных с жарой, в региональную стратегию раннего оповещения. Отрадно отметить, что наша сессия приурочена к неделе СКАТа по повышению устойчивости к бедствиям и посвящена пониманию ландшафта рисков, связанных с жарой в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Безусловно, это будет способствовать углублению интеграционных процессов и расширению сотрудничества между странами в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе в области снижения риска стихийных бедствий. Уважаемые участники мероприятия, как известно, катастрофические последствия изменения климата, экстремальная жара, наводнения, засухи, пожары и другие стихийные бедствия, а также нехватка воды и голод создают серьезную угрозу для человечества во всем мире. Проблемы, связанные с изменением климата, сегодня создают серьезные препятствия на пути достижения целей устойчивого развития, в этом числе и в Таджикистане. В последние годы мы стали свидетелем самых высоких температур воздуха за весь период наблюдений. Как отмечают специалисты Всемирной метеорологической организации, аномальным потеплением температура воздуха в Азии наблюдается выше, чем в среднем по миру. Таджикистан, 93% территории которой составляют горы, является одной из наиболее уязвимых стран мира в этом процессе. Из-за стихийных бедствий, связанных с водой, мы ежегодно несем серьезные материальные и финансовые потери. К сожалению, эти явления в большинстве случаев становятся причиной гибели людей и разрушения жизненно важной инфраструктуры. Кроме того, в течение последних десятилетий наблюдается значительное таяние ледников Таджикистана, последствия которых являются тревожным для всего региона. Необходимо отметить, что на сегодняшний день из 14 тысяч ледников Таджикистана, являющихся одним из основных источников питьевой воды в регионе, более 1300 полностью растаяли, и процесс таяния наших ледников имеет тенденцию роста. В том числе в этом летом из-за сильной жары начал движение пульсирующий ледник Дидал, расположенный в Таджикабадском районе Таджикистана. Уважаемые дамы и господа, наша страна в сотрудничестве со своим партнером принимает практические меры в использовании своих инициатив в водной сфере в рамках международного десятилетия действий «Вода для устойчивого развития» 2018-2028 года. В рамках Альянса воды и климата по инициативе лидер нации президента Республики Таджикистан, уважаемый Эмомали Рахмонов, в ходе 77-й сессии Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН единогласно был принята резолюция об объявлении 2025 года Международным годом защиты ледников и 21 марта Международным днем ледников. В этом контексте предложение нашей страны о создании трансового фонда при ООН для содействия сохранению ледников и проведения в 2025 году международной конференции, посвященной данной теме в Душанбе, является важным шагом в этом направлении. Уважаемые дамы и господа, Таджикистан придает особое значение Сендайской рамочной программе по снижению риска стихийных бедствий, направленной на содействие совершенствованию системы раннего предупреждения, внедрению новых технологий и инновационного управления информацией в интеграцию снижения риска стихийных бедствий в национальные планы развития. Сейчас мировое сообщество признает необходимость более активных действий и принятию неотложных мер по борьбе с изменением климата и устранению его последствий. Решение этих вопросов требует от всех нас фундаментального перехода от управления бедствием к управлению рисками, от приоритета реагирования к приоритету предотвращения. В рамках этих усилий Таджикистаном принята национальная стратегия по снижению риска стихийных бедствий на период 2019-2034 года, в рамках которой предлагаются конкретные меры, направленные на сокращение стихийных бедствий. Эти действия и приверженность правительства Таджикистана к реализации Сендайской программы обеспечивает мобилизацию местных ресурсов и поощряет усиление международного партнерства для достижения целей устойчивого развития. В целях реализации намеченных задач Таджикистан осуществляет использование инновационных подходов, в том числе внедрение современных технологий мониторинга и прогнозирования. В целях непрерывного наблюдения за радиационной обстановкой в республике при технической поддержке Международного агентства по атомной энергии установлена современная система радиационного мониторинга с использованием новейших технологий и оборудования. В целях укрепления потенциала системы управления кризисными ситуациями с участием президента Республики Таджикистан в декабре 2023 года был сдан в эксплуатацию новый национальный центр управления кризисными ситуациями, имеющий возможности управления с использованием современных информационно-коммуникационных систем и технологий, включая обеспечение мобильными командными комплексами связи. Одним из важных шагов в этом направлении является внедрение новых информационных коммуникационных технологий в систему оповещения, включая развитие мобильных предложений и других коммуникационных инструментов для обеспечения готовности и реагирования с учетом потребностей наиболее уязвимых групп населения. В этом контексте Комитет по чрезвычайной ситуации и гражданской обороне Республики Таджикистан при поддержке Всемирного банка разработал мобильное предложение под названием СОС «Предотвращение, защита, спасение» на платформе, которая в начале марта 2024 года запущена в тестовом режиме. Уважаемые коллеги, система раннего оповещения имеет решающее значение в связи с увеличением частоты и интенсивности экстремальных погодных явлений, вызванных изменением климата. Эти системы могут заблаговременно оповещать и предупреждать население, позволяя ему принять необходимые меры предосторожности и своевременно организовать эвакуацию населения из опасных природных зон. В этих целях при поддержке Азиатского банка развития проведена модернизация и расширение системы раннего оповещения и мониторинга высокогорного Сарейского озера до границы с Узбекистаном. Уместно отметить, что Таджикистан является одной из 30 пилотных стран в реализации инициативы ООН «Раннее оповещение для всех». В настоящее время мы разработали дорожную карту для реализации данной инициативы в Таджикистане. Уважаемые участники, мы считаем, что наша конференция предоставит возможность странам-участникам ESCAP ООН содействовать обмену знаниями, поиску инновационных решений, обмену передовым опытом в области противодействия стихийным бедствиям с уделением основного внимания интеграции данных технологий и политики для повышения готовности и возможности реагирования в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. В завершение хотел бы отметить, что без необходимых ресурсов, то есть инвестиций, знаний и технологий достижения поставленных задач может затянуться на долгие годы. Выражаю уверенность, что в том, что наши мероприятия позволят нашим странам достичь глобальных целей Сендайской рамочной программы по снижению риска бедствий в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе и принятия региональной стратегии раннего оповещения. Желаю плодотворной работы и достижения поставленных задач. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Domingos Mariano Reis, Secretary of State of Civil Protection, Ministry of the Interior, Timor-Leste, to deliver his statement.
Your Excellency, Executive Secretary, Ms. Armida Salihabana, ESCAP Secretary. Your Excellency, Deputy Minister of Interior, Thai Government. Your Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to address this 9th session of the Commitment on Disaster Risk Reduction on behalf of the Government of Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. Extend my deep appreciation to ESCAP for providing this vital platform for dialogue, cooperation, and collective action in strengthening resilience across our region. As the member of the government responsible for the planning, coordination, and execution of the police regarding the civil protection, reaffirm our commitment to strengthening partnership and cooperation across our region. Asia and Pacific remain the most disaster-prone region in the world, where the impact of climate change, environmental degradation, and rapid urbanization continue to expose community to substantial risk. This challenge reminds us that disaster risk reduction is not merely a technical priority, but it is developmental imperative, a humanitarian obligation, a foundation for sustainable growth. Based on the Timor-Leste national security law, Timor-Leste government have to serve and protect the Timorese people from the cause of disaster or catastrophes. As we have just integrated as full member of ASEAN last month, Timor-Leste reaffirmed its commitment to serve and protect the people across the region through the Asian Humanitarian Assistance AHA Center. In line with the ASEAN guidelines and policies related to disaster risk reduction management, Timor-Leste has made state progress in institutionalization, disaster risk governance, improved early warning system, and promoting community-based resilience. However, like many development nations, we continue to face gaps in capacity, financial, and infrastructure. We believe that strongly regional cooperation, equitable access to technology, and predictable funding mechanisms are essential to bridge this gap, ensure that no one is left behind. In this regard, we welcome the ESCAP initiative to enhance regional risk assessment, expand multi-hazard early warning system, and support member states in integrated DRR into national development strategy. We will commit to working closely with our regional partner to translate Sendai framework goals into drive outcome at the community level. As we look ahead, let us reaffirm our collective responsibility to protect life, safeguard development gains, and strengthen resilient for the future generation. Together, through solidarity and shared commitment, we can build a safe, more readiness, and more sustainability Asia-Pacific region to guarantee sustainability development goal. Before I conclude, I like to express my deep solidarity to Philippines people, Thai peoples, Vietnam peoples, and Indonesian people cause of natural disaster. Thank you very much for this excellent opportunity. That's all.
I thank His Excellency for the statement. I would now like to invite special remarks from Mr. Han Seong-soo, the chair of the high-level experts and leaders panel on water and disasters and former Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea.
Honorable Ms. Amida Alistabana, distinguished speakers and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be invited to deliver this special statement at this very important session. I'd like to thank Executive Secretary Ms. Amida Alistabana and ESCAP and her team for helping convene this very important event to promote the sustainable development of the region. I would also like to express my appreciation and respect to all of you who have worked day and night to protect people and countries from the ever-increasing threat of disasters of all kinds. Of these disasters, water-related disasters have had a significant impact on the world, particularly in Asia. In the past 30 years, 6.1 billion people have been affected by disasters, of which 5.9 billion, or 95%, were affected by water-related disasters. 85% of these people were in Asia, and 78% of deaths by water-related disasters happened in Asia. Disasters hit the poorest people the hardest. Poor people die in disasters 6 times more often than rich people. This is not acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the final stages of the Agenda 2030 and Sendai framework periods. The target of SDG 6, target on water, is off track and needs to be accelerated in each of these 8 targets. For disaster risk reduction, TRR, we do not even know whether we are on track or off track, as the targets are not given in any numerical but descriptive manner. However, I would like to express my highest commendation to UN Secretary General for announcing the early warning for all by 2027 and to member states for their efforts to achieve it. However, we all know that early warning coverage is just the first stage in disaster risk reduction. Our ultimate goal is to eradicate human, economic, and other losses caused by disasters rather than just installing systems. To make matters worse, we do not even have measurable targets on DRR, which is an issue. We cannot improve what we cannot measure. I urge you to discuss and agree on measurable goals and targets for disaster risk reduction, including the reduction of water-related disasters in the post-2030 agenda. I know it is a very difficult task because of the statistical, technical, or political challenges. However, I think that Asia and the Pacific should take the lead on this, as the region will be the largest beneficiary of any improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, disaster risk reduction is desperately required for sustainable development, for people's welfare, and for the fulfillment of basic human rights. Despite climate, economic, and political challenges, governments have come to commit themselves to making this happen. Now it is time to show results. If we work harder together, I am sure that we will be able to achieve it. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Han Sung-soo for the statement. I would now like to invite special remarks from Mr. Yigmi Tinley, the former Prime Minister of Bhutan and a member of the Club de Madrid. Okay, I think we will move on to the next speaker. And so the next speaker, also special remarks, is Mr. Spencer Lowe, the chair of the Innovation Task Force of the ESCAP Sustainable Business Network, and he's also head of regional sustainability for Asia-Pacific countries.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Armida Alishabana, UN Undersecretary General and ESCAP Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to address this esteemed committee today to discuss the critical intersection of advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, and the urgent imperative of climate resilience and sustainable development. Let me start with our partnership with ESCAP, a model for digital public goods. Earlier this year, Google was proud to formalize a memorandum of understanding with ESCAP. This is not simply a memorandum. It represents a commitment to bridge the technological gap facing our most vulnerable communities. The immediate focus of our collaboration addresses a profound and destabilizing climate threat, drought. Through this MOU, Google is contributing sophisticated AI-driven land surface model predictions, including soil moisture forecasts extending up to 3 months in advance. This is a direct injection of cutting-edge research into regional policy. These experimental data streams are being integrated as an open digital public good within the new ESCAP Risk and Resilience Portal 3.0. By making this high-resolution, long-range drought data openly accessible, we are empowering national governments and agricultural ministries with the anticipatory intelligence needed to secure food security and protect livelihoods well before the onset of crisis. This open source approach is fundamental to ensuring responsible AI and maximizing impact across the Asia-Pacific region. Now let's turn to scaling AI for multi-hazard resilience. Our work extends beyond drought to tackle the full spectrum of hydrometeorological hazards. Our goal is to operationalize AI to achieve universal early warning coverage, a core objective of the UN Secretary General's Early Warnings for All initiative. This commitment is realized through 2 key technological contributions. First, AI-powered flood forecasting. Leveraging machine learning, we have developed a model that forecasts riverine floods up to 7 days in advance, currently covering over 40 countries in the Asia-Pacific and beyond. This is particularly vital in data-scarce regions where traditional hydrological models often struggle. We collaborate closely with the World Meteorological Organization and national hydromet services to validate and refine these forecasts, ensuring they are integrated into government workflows for maximum life-saving effect. Second, satellite-driven nowcasting. In regions lacking dense ground radar infrastructure, a common challenge in the Global South, we use AI and satellite imagery to generate highly accurate short-term rainfall predictions every 15 minutes for the next 12 hours. This capability provides essential lead time for mitigating the impact of sudden, localized heavy rainfall and flash floods. Finally, the path to last-mile impact. Ultimately, the value of this technology rests on its ability to reach the last mile. This requires robust digital infrastructure and trustworthy dissemination. We ensure this by, firstly, ubiquitous alerting, using platforms like Google Search, Maps, and Android's SOS alerts to guarantee that government-authorized warnings, specifically those using the Common Alerting Protocol, CAP, reach citizens directly on their mobile devices. Next, preparedness data, providing high-resolution data such as our Open Buildings dataset that helps humanitarian partners map previously unmapped vulnerable communities. This allows for precise anticipatory action, transforming generic warnings into targeted assistance. In conclusion, our partnership with ESCAP is a cornerstone of our commitment to responsible AI deployment. By making AI-driven data an open digital public tool and digital public good, and by continually innovating to deliver accurate and timely warnings, we are working hand in hand with the UN system to build a more resilient and sustainable future for all. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Spencer Lowe for his special remarks. Excellencies, it's now my pleasure to introduce the 2025 Asia-Pacific Disaster Report. As we have always done at this opening of the Committee on DRR, we present to you the findings of our flagship report. And the 2020, if I could request for the presentation, please. The 2025 edition is focused on rising heat, rising risk, and it is in response to the Secretary General's call for action on extreme heat, which he issued last year together with the Global Executive Action Plan on Early Warnings for All by 2027. Next, please. So the key messages of the report. 2024 is the hottest year on record, and the fastest growing climate hazards are from rising temperatures. Consequently, disaster risk is expanding and intensifying as temperatures rise. By 2100, regional disaster losses could increase from 418 billion under the current scenario to 498 billion under a worst-case climate scenario. The frequency of days above critical heat thresholds is said to increase sharply, with South and Southwest Asia, parts of Southeast Asia, and Northern and Eastern Australia trending towards chronic heat exposure. Glacial melt has one of the most disastrous consequences because it triggers changes in teleconnected systems of oceans and atmosphere across and land across distant regions. Within the estimated cost of transformative climate adaptation of 0.49%, so less than half of a percentage of regional GDP, we find that heat adaptation does not require exclusive financing if it's integrated into other development funding and policy streams. So we make the case for a change from current short-term reactive approaches to long-term systemic strategies. Additionally, heat terminology requires standardization to enable more consistent measurements and impact-based forecasts. Smart technological innovation for urban cooling can bring triple development dividends, and given that the sun's rays strike the earth without regard for national borders, bolstering regional resilience will depend on stronger regional collaboration, and we propose 3 concrete initiatives. So I will get into some of the evidence for these key messages in my next slides. Okay, I think I have it correct now. So Asia Pacific is the most disaster impacted region of the world. The number, 60% of people affected, and 40% of fatalities at the global level are accounted for by Asia Pacific. And heat events have tripled since 2000. 2025 marks a structural shift in climate risk facing the region, with heat emerging as a driver of disaster impact. And so the map on the screen shows you the regions of Asia Pacific that experience severe heat stress, defined as number of days with a heat index of 35 degrees centigrade or higher, the dark blue ones being the higher ones and the light blue ones being the lower ones. Extreme heat days above 35 degrees centigrade are intensifying and they are emerging. Now, when we include humidity, there is a compounding effect, and we see an intensification of this compounding effect in the coastal and island areas. Whereas in Central Asia, the Himalayan areas, and some of the low-lying small island developing states, we see risk heat hotspots emerging. And so over 60 heat stress days are projected for South and Southwest Asia, East and Southeast Asia, and the Pacific SIDS in particular are emerging with high heat and humidity stresses that will have prolonged duration. The economic impacts under the scenario of 5 to 8.5 of the SSP, the total losses are expected to rise to 498 billion by 2100, and this accounts for around 1.1% of the regional GDP. In terms of total absolute average annual losses, East and Northeast Asia experience the highest ones, and then in terms of the average annual losses, it's the North and Central Asian sub-region that experience the highest average annual losses, followed by the Pacific small island developing states. Heat also, besides the immediate average annual losses or absolute annual losses, there are also economic impacts that are generated through reduced labor productivity and worsened public health outcomes. And so we see from the percentages of the working hours lost due to increased heat stress by sector and by country, we see in particular the agriculture and construction sectors that are affected. And then these are probably underestimations because the economic losses are also being experienced through hidden productivity declines. So these productivity declines are not explicit, they are typically, featured as fatigue, less, lower productivity due to heat, a slowing down of the ability to work. And then there is an outlier at 10% in East and Northeast Asia, and this is due to the rising indoor occupational heat stress that is being observed in urban centers, particularly those that usually have temperate climates. Rising temperatures are also pushing energy systems beyond capacity and lowering generation efficiency. Just to mention two examples, in Bangkok and Delhi, already the grid capacity has been exceeded on peak days, and hydropower and thermal plants lose efficiencies, in particular as temperatures increase. Heat stress is also shortening the growing seasons of food, of crops, and thus threatening food security. And our agriculture heat stress score shows countries in South and Southwest Asia consistently at high risk for these reductions in or shortening of growing seasons and more vulnerability to food insecurities, and the Pacific small island developing states have, as an emerging area of risk, having high future exposure. Then there is also the impact on the core planetary ecosystems, and so the Earth system is absorbing unprecedented levels of heat, driving cascading risks across sectors. The oceans are absorbing around 91% of excess heat, and land warming has reached 1.59 degrees centigrade already since the pre-industrial levels. The highest composite risks for this, for the scenario is, according to our calculations, Myanmar, India, Islamic Republic of Iran, and Pacific small island developing states. So there is a need for a long-term approach, a coordinated planning for heat resilience. Heat resilience we define as the ability of urban and rural systems to operate effectively despite increasing risks of extreme heat and other compounding hazards. And we need to take into consideration the risks to people, infrastructure, environment, and the economy. And the risks are both chronic and acute. And so we need to move from short-term resilience measures to longer-term adaptation plans. There are win-win outcomes. Communities will be better off. There will be improvements in health outcomes, productivity and economic prosperity will rise, infrastructure services remain reliable, and there's an increased capacity to manage risks. But there is a need to really plan for and prepare for what we term as heat governance, which instead of remaining fragmented and reactionary across ministries is integrated across government authorities. And so ESCAP has a regional strategy on implementation of early warnings for all that was adopted, by the 8th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. So what we are proposing is to include elements of heat into this early warnings for all risk reduction, early warnings for all strategy. And so there are a couple of elements that can be integrated both in regional strategy, and in national preparedness plans. One is to recognize heat-ready multi-hazard early warning systems as shared services across all aspects of government policy. There's a need to agree on alert levels tied to common metrics on heat, interoperable standard operating procedures and local language communication. Health-centric standard steps, clinical steps, including ensuring continuity of hospital services if there are patient surges, and then integrated planning for cascading risks, including the integrated feedback loops that we are seeing between the melting of glaciers and sea level rise. And then an equity-first social protection system, a social protection system that is climate responsive, and then integrated financing. Addressing heat does not require new additional or standalone funds if mainstreamed into existing adaptation and mitigation plans. And so we propose 3 cooperation initiatives. One is scaling up climate resilient and inclusive social protection schemes, and informed by ongoing pilot initiatives that the Secretariat is implementing. We can continue to provide technical support through the development of regional guidelines, policy analysis, and tools on designing heat proactive social protection provisions at national level. And then we also propose the establishment of cross-border green cooling corridors. And this we propose to start off at the sub-regional level through the ESCAP program. ESCAP can facilitate a strengthening of collaboration among national governments, municipalities, and local communities to create such green cooling corridors that can act as buffers against desertification, land degradation, drought, sand and dust storms. And finally, leveraging on our long-established, well-established regional space applications program, we can promote the continued sharing of Earth observation data and technical expertise for monitoring, forecasting, and mapping of heat exposure and vulnerability. This upstream part of the early warning chain is crucial. It has to be accurate, it has to be precise, because that's what lends credibility to the early warning systems at the downstream part, at the last mile. So using data for improved accuracy, preciseness at the upstream part is really crucial. So thank you very much. So Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we now move on to the next part of our opening session. And I'd like to recall December 26, 2004, the day the Indian Ocean tsunami devastated coastal communities, claimed over 230,000 lives, displaced 1.7 million people, and inflicted an economic cost over 10 billion across 14 countries that share the Indian Ocean. So in 2005, through a generous donation by Thailand of $10 million and Sweden of $2.5 million, the Tsunami Trust Fund was established. Since then, the trust fund has expanded to other hazards as well. And as this is the first time the committee is meeting after the 20th commemoration of that tragic day in 2004, we have invited ambassadors representing our donors who have made a renewed contribution to the Trust Fund in 2024 on the occasion of the 20th commemoration. So we would like to thank our member states, and I also thank the ADB for the generous contributions to the Trust Fund. So I would now like to call to the podium His Excellency Ambassador Nagesh Singh, the Government of India, to the podium.
Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning. The widespread loss of life, livelihood, and infrastructure in the aftermath of the devastating 2004 tsunami in the Indian Ocean region was a grim reminder of our vulnerability to the furies of nature. It also showed us the criticality of investing in coordinated, long-term disaster preparedness to ensure that such a calamity is averted in the future. Since its inception in 2005, in the aftermath of the tsunami, the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund for Tsunami Disaster and Climate Preparedness has been at the forefront of the regional effort to enhance access to early warning systems against coastal hazards in the region. India has been a willing partner, extending co-financing, technical, and in-kind support to the initiatives under the fund. This included a $1 million US contribution to the trust fund in 2015, followed by a contribution of $500,000 US this year to scale up activities. Several countries have directly benefited from the fund by developing end-to-end early warning systems for coastal hazards. I wish to thank our partner countries for their generous contributions, which have made the initiatives viable. While collectively we have made progress in developing early warning systems in the region, gaps remain and emerging risks such as sea level rise and other climate extremes are compounding our challenges. Geographically, we need to focus more on the small island developing states in the Pacific and the Indian Ocean region to address their unique needs and vulnerabilities. In India, we have gradually adopted a more holistic, technology-driven, multi-hazard, multi-sector approach to disaster risk reduction. Our national policy now explicitly factors in cascading risks due to sea level rise, extreme weather events, rapid urbanization, development of high-risk zones in coastal areas. It is helping us to embed DRR in development planning and public investment. At regional and global levels, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, a multi-stakeholder initiative led by India, is transforming the way we plan, design, build, and maintain risk-informed infrastructure systems. India is also working closely with UNESCO to implement Tsunami Ready Recognition Program at community level and has maximum number of Tsunami Ready communities. We are also supporting the ongoing initiatives under the UN Decade of Ocean Science to improve data-driven coastal management. India has been supporting ocean-related hazard services for the entire Indian Ocean region through arrangements such as the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System, and also co-leads several technical bodies. Our operational data, models, and SOPs are embedded in national and regional warning systems, helping advance UN's initiative on early warning for all. As we face mounting challenges triggered by climate change, India stands ready to keep investing to deliver faster and more accurate warnings for safer communities and risk-informed development. Our objective is to strengthen partnerships in the region, to turn science into services for risk monitoring, early warning, and informed decision-making. We look forward to continued support of our partner countries, scientific community, and international organizations in this endeavor. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of India, for the statement. I now call on the Ambassador of the Philippines, Her Excellency Ms. Millicent Cruz Paredes, for the statement.
Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the urgency of disaster preparedness and response has been starkly highlighted by the powerful typhoon and flooding that have recently been and even currently causing devastation in the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. And to further illustrate, late last year, 6 typhoons, including a few super typhoons, hit the Philippines within a period of just 30 days. These events serve as an urgent reminder of our shared vulnerability to disasters and also underscore that our efforts today to strengthen our resilience to these hazards in our countries and in the region will determine how many lives we can save tomorrow. The Philippines stands at the forefront of a global reality where typhoons, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes constantly test the country's resilience. In response to these threats, the Philippines, through the Department of Science and Technology, is actively leveraging data and innovation to enhance disaster preparedness. We have launched several flagship initiatives, such as the GeoRisk Philippines platform, developed through a multi-agency effort led by the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. GeoRisk Philippines provides communities with comprehensive hazard mapping for floods, landslides, and earthquakes. This web-based tool empowers local governments and policymakers to make informed decisions based on data-driven insights. Then we have the Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild application, which was developed with the World Bank. This application helps local governments in urban development planning by assisting them in optimizing their land use and determining the location of infrastructure projects through geospatial data. The Philippines is also developing a multi-hazard impact-based forecasting and early warning system, a nationwide system that focuses on communicating the specific impacts of weather. This provides timely and actionable information to vulnerable communities and enable them to make a more proactive response to imminent hazards. It is currently being developed and implemented in pilot sites in the Philippines. Innovations in science and technology in areas such as spatial planning, big data analysis, and digital and geospatial applications support countries in developing impact-based and risk-informed early warning systems. It is in this context that we recognize the critical value of the ESCAP Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster, and Climate Preparedness. As a contributing nation to this fund, the Philippines views it as an example of successful regional cooperation. The Trust Fund has consistently provided the support needed to integrate science and technology into the national disaster preparedness frameworks. The Philippines, in line with its commitment to addressing shared vulnerabilities across the region, is working toward the establishment of the ASEAN Science, Technology, and Innovation Platform on Disaster and Climate Resilience. Unanimously approved by the ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation in June this year, this initiative aims to be a hub for sharing and scaling innovations tailored to specific needs of ASEAN member states. According to the Department of Science and Technology Secretary Renato Solidum, despite the collective exposure of the region to multiple hazards, through science and technology, victims of disasters can transform into victors over disasters. Together, we can amplify these innovations to overcome our challenges and enhance regional disaster preparedness. Thank you very much.
I thank the Ambassador of the Philippines, Her Excellency Ms. Cruz Paredes, for the statement. I would now like to call on the Ambassador of Sweden, Her Excellency Anna Hammargren, to deliver a statement.
Thank you so much. Madam Executive Secretary of ESCAP, Excellencies, distinguished participants and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a privilege for me to be here to speak to you today. Briefly, I think I can be rather brief. There have been a lot of good wordings on both disaster risk management and on the trust fund as such. Sweden has been a partner to the trust fund all from the start, as you heard before. We were one of the founding members, and we've also been one of the more prominent contributors to the fund. And the focus of the fund, the tsunami, the disaster, and climate preparedness, is unfortunately more relevant than ever, as we have heard. As I said, I think I can be brief. Many wise words have already been said. From a Swedish perspective, anyhow, we fully support the reflections underlining the need for its continued development as expressed in the strategy for 2025 to 2030. And we have therefore reaffirmed its commitment to the trust fund by providing additional funding for 2025 and 2026. One special aspect that is of importance to Sweden in general in our development cooperation, and also valid for our engagement in the trust fund, is the promotion of a human rights-based and gender equality approach. The aim here is to ensure that inclusiveness and sustainable approaches are secured also in disaster risk reduction, and of course also in the regional platforms and in regional funding. We see that promoting a human rights-based approach and gender equality in regional platforms enhances resilience by ensuring inclusive access to both resources, opportunities, and decision-making. Let me address three aspects why this is the case. Primarily, when rights are upheld and gender disparities are reduced, communities become more empowered, socially cohesive, and economically stable. This fosters, which is really important, trust in institutions, and it improves governance, and then encourages diverse participation, leading to increased potential for innovative and adaptive solutions. Secondly, by addressing vulnerabilities and reducing discrimination, these approaches create stronger and fairer systems that can better withstand and recover from crisis. And in this regard, women's empowerment and voices are really essential. And thirdly, a rights-based approach can be used to guide specific DRR activities, such as ensuring that emergency shelters are accessible and safe for all, or that disaster preparedness information reaches all members of a community. We therefore applaud the Trust Fund for being people-centered, as this will increase resilience, especially for those at most risk. Women, youth, and disabled were mentioned before. As we know, these groups, and not at least the children, are often the most vulnerable and hardest hit by climate change and by disasters. And special attention should really be paid to children, their experiences and their life situations. Ladies and gentlemen, Swedish priorities for development cooperation are an expanded and more effective climate aid, women's and girls' freedom and empowerment, as well as humanitarian aid, including to alleviate suffering of people affected by disasters. Hence, we will continue to prioritize efforts that contribute to disaster risk reduction and early warning systems, preparedness, and increased resilience. In these efforts, we will continue to highlight the importance of inclusiveness. I look forward to our continued cooperation, and I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
I thank the Ambassador of Sweden, Her Excellency Anna Hammargren, for the statement. I now call on the Ambassador of Switzerland, His Excellency Pedro Swalen, for the statement.
Excellencies, dear Executive Secretary of UNESCAP, distinguished delegates. Switzerland has been supporting the UN ESCAP Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster and Climate Preparedness since 2020. Leading up to the 20-year commemoration of the Indian Ocean tsunami, we supported a long-term evaluation and a cost-benefit analysis of the Trust Fund together with Italy and the Asian Development Bank. Over 2 decades, the Trust Fund has demonstrated an exceptional capacity to adapt, evolve, and remain relevant in a rapidly changing risk landscape. From Switzerland's perspective, 5 key lessons emerge from this long-term view. First lesson: disaster prevention requires long-term commitment. Change takes time. Switzerland's own experience, grounded in our humanitarian tradition and the founding of the Red Cross, shows how disaster management has progressively shifted from response towards preparedness and prevention. This evolution is also visible in our cooperation set up here in Bangkok. What began as a humanitarian hub in the embassy now encompasses disaster risk reduction, climate action, environment, water and food systems. Southeast Asia has played a decisive role in shaping the global disaster risk reduction agenda. From the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami that led to the UN Hyojo Framework for Action, to the ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Response, to this day, the world's only legally binding regional disaster management instrument, the Disaster Management AADMER. The Trust Fund, marking its 20th year, is a unique institution that has grown alongside these agendas. Switzerland is proud to have supported this journey over the past 5 years. Second lesson: disaster and climate risks do not respect political boundaries. It seems evident, but we have to draw consequences. The tsunami of the Kamchatka Peninsula earlier this year reminded us that natural hazards move across borders quickly, from Russia and Japan to the Pacific Islands and even the Americas. Similarly, tropical storms originating over the ocean can impact multiple countries, as seen this autumn with typhoons first affecting the Philippines, later Vietnam, then the Mekong region. For this reason, Switzerland gives great importance to regional collaboration, early warning networks, and the exchange of knowledge across local, regional, and global partners. No country can manage these risks alone. In that context, we fully support ESCAP's efforts in South-South and triangular cooperation to strengthen coastal resilience. Third lesson: a holistic approach is essential to reducing risk effectively. As a country exposed to multiple natural hazards, such as avalanches, floods, and landslides, Switzerland understands that risk reduction must be integrated across all levels of governance. The recent Platten Glacier collapse in Switzerland and the dramatic retreat of our glaciers all over the place, which has attracted global attention, illustrate how climate change is magnifying both the frequency and the severity of hazards. Southeast Asia faces major challenges as climate-related disasters intensify and extreme weather becomes the norm. The UNESCAP Asia-Pacific Disaster Report 2025 and its focus on rising heat threats underscores the urgency of adopting comprehensive, multi-hazard approaches. Focusing on a single hazard is no longer enough. Fourth lesson: disaster prevention pays off. The 20-year cost-benefit analysis of the Trust Fund demonstrates that investments in regional early warning systems have generated a return of $3.7 to 5.5 for every single dollar invested. Such evidence should guide our collective strategies and funding decisions. Every dollar spent on prevention saves multiple dollars in response and recovery, and more importantly, protects lives and livelihoods. This message is central to the Geneva Call for Disaster Risk Reduction, issued following the global platform in June this year and echoed in this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, Fund Resilience, not disasters, quoting. Fifth and last lesson, disaster warnings must reach the most vulnerable. Ultimately, even the most sophisticated systems are effective only if alerts reach the people at risk. Our subnational work in the region has shown that capacities vary greatly. During a visit to Laos PDR, I recently encountered personally a river monitoring station whose neighboring communities had never received a single warning or a testing of a warning. So this is a clear reminder that technology alone is not enough. We must walk and check the very last mile. Switzerland therefore supports innovation in digitalization and emerging technologies, while ensuring these tools remain accessible, inclusive, and aligned with humanitarian principles. Protection, gender, and inclusion must be mainstreamed to ensure no one is left behind. Excellencies, the past 20 years have shown that sustained commitment, regional cooperation, holistic planning, sound investment, and inclusive warning systems save lives. These lessons will guide Switzerland as we continue to support ESCAP, governments, and communities across the region. To conclude, in this spirit, Switzerland is pleased to provide a financial contribution of $530,000 to the ESCAP Trust Fund in support of its ongoing efforts to strengthen disaster and climate resilience across Asia and the Pacific. This is a significant increase compared to 2024. Switzerland remains committed to advancing resilience, safeguarding lives, and supporting sustainable development throughout this region. Thank you very much.
I thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of Sweden, apologies, Ambassador of Switzerland. Apologies. Pedro Swyland for the statement. I'd now like to call on Kun Katalea Patumros, the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, for the statement.
Yes, thank you very much. Sawasdee ka. Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to ESCAP for hosting the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. This meeting comes at a critical moment as the Asia-Pacific region has faced a series of devastating disasters, including earthquakes, landslides, and unseasonal floods. At present, as been mentioned, Thailand is also facing the floods in Songkhla province in southern Thailand. These catastrophes remind us of the continued and urgent need to strengthen regional cooperation on disaster risk reduction, invest in early warning systems in order to safeguard development gains in line with the UN Secretary General's Early Warning for All initiative. ESCAP has done a great deal in mobilizing regional efforts, producing key resources such as the Asia-Pacific Disaster Report, and providing technical support on disaster risk reduction to member states. ESCAP's expertise on data is key to strengthening disaster risk reduction and preparedness for the region, including in improving early warning systems, a critical element of disaster risk reduction as mentioned by Madam Executive Secretary. In this regard, Thailand wishes to express our appreciation to ESCAP and UNOSAT for cooperating on satellite data to support flood mapping and assessment in Songkhla province, which helps facilitate a more rapid response. Data also needs to be supported by investment and that corresponds to the needs on the ground. In this regard, Thailand remains committed to the ESCAP Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster and Climate Preparedness, which is a key for regional cooperation on disaster risk reduction and disaster preparedness. We have recently contributed an addition of $500,000 to the trust fund, and we highly appreciate contributions by countries across the regions for this trust fund, which will help strengthen the implementation of the new strategic framework for the years 2025 to 2030. In conclusion, Thailand wishes to express our appreciation to ESCAP for your support and tireless work in managing the trust fund. We will continue our cooperation with ESCAP, and we look forward to continue working with all partners to ensure that the trust fund helps make the region more resilient to natural disasters. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Director General, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, Kun Katalia Patumros, for the statement. I now call on Samantha Cook, the Director of the Disaster Risk Management Department at the Asian Development Bank, to give her statement.
Excellencies, Ministers, Heads of Delegation, distinguished guests. The Asian Development Bank's developing member countries are among those most severely affected by disasters and climate change globally. And of course, many countries in the region face the simultaneous threat of geophysical hazards. As such, accelerated efforts to reduce disaster risk are essential to protect the development gains and help elevate the poorest, most vulnerable members of society to positions of resilience. Under Strategy 2030, climate and disaster resilience is a core operational priority of ADB. ADB remains firmly committed to supporting a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific, and to achieving the objective of the Sendai Framework, namely, to substantially reduce disaster risk, losses in lives, livelihoods, health, and assets by 2030. Towards this end, in 2024, ADB launched the Disaster Risk Management Action Plan. This promotes early warning systems, disaster risk financing, and preparedness as areas to scale through increased investments and technical assistance, very much aligned to the objectives of the Trust Fund for Tsunami Disaster and Climate Response. ADB, as both a development financier and knowledge provider, is committed to scaling up and supporting those efforts. As some of you may have heard, earlier this week, the board of ADB just approved a capital utilization plan to scale operations by 50%. This will see annual financial commitments to our developing member countries exceed $36 billion by 2034. It is this funding that will enable ADB to further incentivize investments, incentivize investments in disaster risk reduction and policy reforms that mainstream early warning systems and risk analytics into national planning and budgeting. We can also leverage grant resources such as the Asian Development Fund and the Asia Pacific Disaster Response Fund. At ADB, we advocate that countries use a risk layering approach to establish pre-arranged finance that combines contingent disaster financing, parametric instruments, reserves, and emergency assistance loans to provide finance quickly and when needed. It is this risk layering where we see the real connections to the ESCAP Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster, and Climate Preparedness. Strong partnerships and coordination are essential. We therefore embrace the opportunity to participate in the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction and to meet key stakeholders from across Asia Pacific and beyond to join forces, to move forward together, and to achieve our common goal of disaster resilience. In closing, ADB would like to thank ESCAP for their tremendous work through the Trust Fund and in bringing us together at this event. Thank you.
I thank the Director, Samantha Cook from ADB, for the statement. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's now my pleasure to conduct the election of officers for the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. In line with the rules of procedure of ESCAP, the committee will elect from among its members a chair and 2 vice chairs. Are there any proposals from the distinguished delegates for the Bureau? I recognize the distinguished representative from Fiji.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the delegation of Fiji has the great pleasure to nominate His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Ziad, Minister of State, Ministry of Tourism and Environment, Maldives, as the chair. And as vice chairs, Mr. Karma Galay, Director General, Department of Local Governance and Disaster Management, Bhutan, and Mr. Barasi Botelanga, Chief Executive Officer of National Emergency Services, Nauru. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished delegate from Fiji. I'd like to ask if there's any delegation that would like to second the nomination as proposed by the distinguished delegate of Fiji. I recognize the distinguished delegate from the Philippines.
The delegation of the Philippines has the honor to second the nominations made by the distinguished delegate of Fiji.
I thank the distinguished delegate of the Philippines. I now give the floor to the distinguished delegate of Kazakhstan.
Good day, distinguished colleagues. The delegation of Kazakhstan has a pleasure to second the nominations made by distinguished delegate of Fiji. Thank you so much.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Kazakhstan. I recognize the distinguished delegate of Indonesia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is with honor that our delegation would like also to second the nomination provided by the delegation of Fiji. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Indonesia. Are there any other nominations? I see none. And so it is my great pleasure to declare His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Ziad, Minister of State, Ministry of Tourism and Environment of the Maldives, as the chair, and as vice chairs, Mr. Karma Galay, Director General, Department of Local Governance and Disaster Management of Bhutan, and Mr. Barasi Botelanga, CEO of National Emergency Services, Nauru. Please join me in congratulating the newly elected chair and vice chairs by acclamation.
Excellencies, Madam Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, I thank you all for the confidence placed in me and the great honor that you have bestowed on my country and to me. Together with the honorable vice chairs and with the support of the Secretariat, I shall endeavor to discharge the responsibilities of serving you as your chair to the very best of my abilities. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we will now move to agenda item 1C, adoption of the agenda. The provisional agenda of the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction is contained in document ESCAP CDR 9/1. Does any delegation have any comments on the agenda? They have no comments. So no comments. May I propose to the committee that the provisional agenda as contained in document ESCAP CDR 9/1 be adopted. So decided. The agenda is adopted. I now hand over the floor to the Secretariat to make some announcements about the group photo.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much, Chair, for giving me the floor. We have, I think, reached the end of our opening session this morning, just 3 minutes past midday. But before you all go for lunch, I'd like to ask you to stay behind. There'll be a group photo. And then I'd also warmly invite everyone to witness the signing of 3 agreements. One is with the government of Switzerland on the signing of the trust fund agreement, and then one is with our chair serves as secretariat of the RIMES, so renewal of MOU between ESCAP and RIMES. And the third one is an MOU signing between the government of Kazakhstan, a landlocked country, with Vanuatu, a small island developing states, both countries with special needs, and Vanuatu being one of the most disaster-impacted countries of the world. And so there's a signing of an MOU of cooperation between the government of Kazakhstan and Vanuatu. Thank you. So the group photo will be the Executive Secretary of ESCAP and then all the heads of delegations. Heads of delegations, thank you.
So I can technically be there, but not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We will now move on to the signing ceremony, and the signing will take place in front here. There'll be a signing table.
Let's take it back. It's okay.
Okay, so you will be next.
Yeah, I'll be next.
Okay, so Excellencies, the first is the signing of a trust fund agreement between ESCAP and the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation, Government of Switzerland. I have the honor of inviting His Excellency, the Ambassador of Switzerland, and Ms. Alice Jabana, the Executive Secretary of ESCAP and Under Secretary General of the UN, to the signing table for the signing. Please take your seats. Sure. thank you very much to the Ambassador of Switzerland, His Excellency Pedro Swallen. I now have the honor of inviting His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Ziad, Minister of State, Tourism and Environment of the Government of the Philippines, to the signing table to join the Executive Secretary for the renewed Memorandum of Understanding between ESCAP and RIMES. And as you may all know, RIMES is an independent intergovernmental organization. It was established through support of the Trust Fund, ESCAP's Trust Fund, in 2009, with an initial membership of 3 countries. And now RIMES provides critical early warning services to 62 collaborating member countries. And the government of the Maldives serves as the Secretariat of RIMES through the Maldives Meteorological Service. So I thank His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Ziad, Minister of State, and now I have the pleasure of announcing that an MOU will be signed between Kazakhstan and Vanuatu. And as we all know, Kazakhstan is a landlocked country. Vanuatu is a small island developing state, one of the most disaster-impacted countries in the world. And this cooperation, as I understand, it stems from bilateral discussions that were initiated between Kazakhstan and Vanuatu at the Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference on Digital Inclusion and Transformation, which was co-organized by ESCAP and the government of Kazakhstan in Astana in September 2024. I have the honor of inviting His Excellency Margulan Bimukan, the Ambassador of Kazakhstan, and His Excellency Mathieu Hervillard Lepeye, the permanent representative of Vanuatu to ESCAP, for the signing of the MOU. Thank you very much, Excellencies, and I think that concludes our sessions this morning. We will resume at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you.